Oh, good evening, coasters. And look, a further discussion on stewardship land. Now, it's really important. It's important to every ratepayer on the coast because at the present time, you're subsidising stewardship land sitting there. Now, the information I'm going to provide you comes from the West Coast Land Evaluation Data Program, and it's a beauty. It was a joint project between the West Coast Councils, and the information is accurate to May 2019. Now, it's a visual representation of relevant layers for land evaluation, and the data includes NZPAM, which is mineral profiles, dockland, stewardship land, West Coast Regional Council resource consents, LINZ reserves, LINZ ownership parcels, and also includes information relating to the draft Westland Taipatini National Park Management Plan. So firstly, some statistics. Department of Conservation controls 84.23% of all of the land on the West Coast. 84.23%. Stewardship land makes up 33.99% of every hectare of land on the coast. The Buller District Council has 10.62% of stewardship land. So that's the total area in the Buller. 10.62% is stewardship land. In the Grey District Council, the Grey District area, it's actually 41.41%. That's huge. And in the Westland District Council area, it's 47.33% of every hectare of land. As I said, these figures are correct at May 2019. Now, coasters, we take an area that covers 33.99% of all of the land on the coast, and while it is to be reclassified as per the intention of government when it sat stewardship land under the care of the Department of Conservation, it's now 32 years under successive governments, and it's because DOC has been unable to carry out on an unbiased evaluation the classifications required. There's already been examples where everything they touch is high conservation value. So there's no balance and there's no incentive. The land should be shifted to an independent authority, and then the various sectors, including minerals, production, forestry, and conservation, should compete for it based on facts. It should become rateable, as that will ensure that the independent authority, it won't sit around for another 32 years like it's already sat now. By becoming rateable, it offers a major decrease in rates to every coast ratepayer, and in some cases well over 50%. So it's huge. Or alternatively, it offers the council the ability to do a lot more with its rate take. Crown-owned land accounts for 39% of New Zealand's total land area, and this is distributed very unevenly across territorial authorities. The Productivity Commission recently reported to government. The following information comes from pages 199 and 200 of that report. Almost 90% of the land area in Buller District is Crown owned, compared with 2.6% in Gore. It's set out in figures 5 and 7. Now, conservation land accounts for 85% of all Crown owned land. So districts with a high proportion of Crown land are also predominantly rural councils, like Westland, Grey and Buller. Many of these districts also have small, low-income communities who have experienced the greatest pressure on rates affordability. That's set out in Chapter 8. While much conservation land will require little in the way of council services, it also means that significant tracts of a district are unavailable for housing or other development. So conservation land, and I'm specifically talking about stewardship land here, acts as a permanent constraint on the size of a council's rating base. And there was a figure on page 200, figure 7 and figure 6, which provided two illustrations. Government-owned land comprised 87% of the land in the Buller district and over 52% in Apotiki. They used it as a comparison. In both districts, rates as a proportion of medium income had grown strongly, reaching 5.9% in Buller. That's significant. And then we look at the value added to New Zealand Inc., or the value that could be added. We are blessed with considerable mineral resources in the ground, and that's what starts investment, exploration, and then extraction, and it builds export income. As I said, this information comes from the West Coast Land Evaluation Database. When we look at minerals prospectivity, starting with the NZPAM information is the most accurate way for us to go forward. I'm going to take you for a bit of a cruise, and I'll show you the areas which are stewardship land, which have been identified as highly prospective from a mineral point of view. Now, to give you a bit of an idea here, everything in green, which I'm showing you here, is stewardship land. So it's not national parks, it's stewardship land. That's Jackson Bay right there. And there's the Arrawatta River. That there is the Arrawatta Bridge. And the area around the Arrawatta Bridge is stewardship land and has been identified as having very high mineral prospectivity. Now, as we go up the island from down towards Jackson Bay, the areas around the west of Lake Ianthe forests, they are stewardship land, and they've been identified as having high mineral potential. We then move to the area around Mine Creek. Once again, it's stewardship land, and it's been identified as high mineral potential. Move up towards Hokitika, and we get into the areas that are marked in red are very, very high for mineral potential. So the areas around the Styx River is stewardship land, and it's been identified as having high mineral potential, and there have been copper deposits identified. The area in behind Lake Canary is stewardship land, and it's been identified as having high mineral potential. So we keep moving up towards Greymouth there. The areas around the Kawaka Forest is stewardship land and has been identified as having high mineral potential. So we're heading through the mineral belt there. The area around the Honui Forest is stewardship land, and it's been identified as having high mineral potential. Keep in mind, all of that green is stewardship land. Now the areas around Lake Brunner Moana is stewardship land, and it's been identified as having high mineral potential. We get up into the Buller, and you'll see the areas in bright red. They're the areas where minerals have been located in the aerial surveys. So the areas around the Anangahua River are stewardship land, and they have high mineral potential. An area that's incredibly exciting is the Marawea Springs Junction, and that's stewardship land, and it's been identified. The readings there were as high as the Arawata. We get up into the Buller, and the areas around Mount Rochford, stewardship land, high mineral potential. The areas around Tukua, stewardship land, high mineral potential. Go further up, and the areas around the Lyell and the Radiant Range are both stewardship land and have been identified as having high mineral potential. And of course, we can't overlook Stockton and Denniston Plateau, which is also stewardship land and has been identified as having high potential for minerals. And we know that for a fact. Now, I've only shown you areas classified as high mineral potential, and common sense says needs to be evaluated independently as part of any ongoing evaluation, as was intended by Parliament in 1987 and 1988. Now I'll just shrink the map down a bit for you. Let's go the other way. All right, there's the whole of New Zealand. Now, no stewardship land in Auckland, none in Wellington, none in Christchurch, a little bit in Dunedin, a small amount up here, but have a look at where all the stewardship land is. All on the west coast, all unrated, and I'm hoping that this will help you see another of the issues that make the stewardship land debate worth having. Catch you later.